And welcome to another edition of our Friday Conversation. We're joined now by the EIU men's and women's swimming staff, and on our I forget what I'm on here. I've done so many of these things on the technology, on the Zoom technology here. As you're looking at my screen, as you see this on the tape on the top, we have one of our assistant coaches, Ryan McCoy, on the bottom. Another one of our assistant coaches, Maddie Beekler, and then our head coach, Evan Shaludko. Now, hopefully I is in the ballpark on everybody's name there. Evan gave me a quick reminder and a pronunciation guide for his before we got on here. So I appreciate you guys joining me, and welcome to this. We've done this with now going on about 8 weeks, which it seems like forever. And I guess for you guys, you've kind of gotten into what would be your summer routine for your kids. So I guess maybe talk a little bit about how now that transition happens for your team. I know that you would have liked to get them back in the water for, a couple, 2-3 weeks before school was out. So does this change kind of what your, I guess, dry land training time is now?
Well, absolutely. I think, having the kids out of the water, basically since our championship meet, it's going to have an effect on not only a lot of them individually, but obviously kind of even the culture that we try to continue to build throughout the season that we were building on in a very strong manner. As far as the dry land stuff, we do what we can, and we try to keep tabs on the kids from afar. Obviously, what they're able to do as far as workout stuff is concerned is a lot of body weight stuff, giving them some other stuff to do, but it is really based cardio, running, that type of stuff. And I can tell you that a lot of swimmers don't enjoy that type of training as much because they consider themselves a little bit more comfortable in the water than on the land. So it is a little bit of an adjustment for a lot of them. And in a lot of cases, this is the longest break that some of our swimmers have ever had out of the water since really they began competitively swimming. So in that regard, it's big. Every day matters that we miss, but obviously our attitude about it is the most important thing.
Now I'll talk to Ryan and Maddie. You guys are just a few years out of swimming yourselves, and like Evan talked about, this is the longest time for the kids not swimming. How do you guys kind of try to then relate to them, having just yourselves been collegiate swimmers in the last, year or 2 or 3, to kind of keep them mentally in the right place?
You want to go first, Maddie, or?
You can go.
Okay, so, just like them, this is the longest time that I've been off a pool deck. I've been involved with the sport since I was very young, and it's been kind of every day since then that I've been on a pool deck, either training or, trying to coach these kids and all that. So I understand exactly what they're going through. It's just all about, doing the little things, just trying to stay active, keep a healthy lifestyle, because when all this does end up becoming over and all that, then the real training can get going. And the healthy lifestyle, the active lifestyle is just really crucial right now. And I know that it kind of sucks not being on a pool deck, but we got to do what we got to do in the circumstances that we have.
Yeah, and I've kind of been the same way, been helping some of them get creative with different things, because a bunch of them don't necessarily have equipment to do stuff. So it's okay, you can still do work and get ready for the next season without having a lot of equipment and being in the pool and everything. So just kind of been helping them with that and everything. And it's definitely weird, how I was swinging to the office the other weekend, the pool is completely empty, and I've been collecting bags from them, and they all come in and see the pool. They're like, oh my god, the water's gone. And I'm yeah, it's definitely a weird shock, and I'm just don't fall in the pool, there's no water in there. So it's just been a weird adjustment, but trying to help them out the best we can.
Now, you guys talk a little bit about how you've tried to keep them mentally focused. Swimming a little bit different than a lot of the other sports that we have, and that you can do weights, but weights are probably a little bit different for swimming. Really, how I think they get better and stronger is by repetitions in the water, and they haven't had access to water. So what have been the adjustments? Is it more running? Is it more core body type of work? how do you, and I don't want to say dry land because people that don't swim have no idea just what dry land means. They just think that means out of the water. So I guess maybe a little bit more specific than the types of things that they would try to be doing to stay in shape.
Yeah, I think absolutely we have, and what you'll find is a lot of coaches and programs around the country are doing that. Some of them are even holding dry land, Zoom calls and stuff like that as much as they can to keep practice type together and keep the group working towards a goal. And for us, the weight program and things we do are definitely detail oriented towards the types of muscle groups and stuff that we want to work on for swimming. Some people on the team are lucky enough to have home gym setups or some types of weights, and some others aren't. So, like I said, we have to do what we can. And so there's been a lot of body weight, core strength stuff that they continue to do, focusing on doing ab sets and different types of dry land stuff like squats and push-ups, obviously, as long as they're being careful with the shoulders and just stuff of that nature to try to continue to keep their physique and keep themselves in shape as much as they can, so that when they get back in the water, it's as easy as an adjustment as possible. For a lot of people, it's going to take extra time to get back and comfortable in the water, and it's going to hurt. It's going to be painful, but I'm confident that our group is prepared for that. They understand that that's how it is. And, as all of us, as, of course, previous collegiate swimmers, we know even when you take 2 or 3 weeks out of the water, how much pain you're in that first week of practice again. So, I think our group has the right attitude about it. We just have to continue to stay positive and just hope that we'll be able to compete as soon as possible.
Now, when you talk about what they may have access to during the summer, every one of your swimmers, you guys have a very diverse group in terms of, when I say geography, I would say diverse in terms of geography. You've got swimmers from, Arizona, from Florida. You have some from Illinois, the Midwest, and different parts. It sounds like if you follow the news, every state is going to have different, parameters and timelines as to when they get back in the pool. How is there a structure during the summer that you guys would have if a kid can, let's say he's in Florida and or he or she's in Florida and can get back in the pool? Are there workouts that you guys can then design for those kids so as a team, when they get back together, they're not all completely behind?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of our kids, depending on the state they're from, obviously, Florida, Georgia, some of those have already begun, opening up again, and some of them have in some cases been able to swim again as of this week. And some of our kids that are in northern states or Midwest or even West Coast haven't had that opportunity yet. What we do is, they all have the opportunity to get practices from us, especially as the states open up, and we'll give them workouts to try to get them back into it as soon as possible. Swimming, there's a very prominent club program, type of practice and situation, and that a lot of kids do in the summertime. They go back to their initial club teams to train as much as they can. So whatever they're really comfortable with. Some of them don't really belong to those teams anymore, and some of them will want more individual stuff right from us, and then some of them will go right back and get back into their routines of club and try to come back to us in the best shape they can. And some of you guys can, Maddie and Ryan, shed some light on how that works. A lot of people don't really know how prominent the club side of things is in the summertime, and for even college kids returning to their teams.
Yeah, so at least on the club side of swimming, I kind of consider that more high school and under. There's sort of like a transition period when you get done with high school and then you go on to a collegiate team. It's just a different atmosphere, a different family, a different group that you're a part of at that point in time. And it's something that isn't really comparable to the high school scene or the club scene that you're just used to. But I mean, once the kids get into college, I would say it's very common for the kids to not necessarily go back to their club team and their club practices. just because when you get into college, it's more about training you for 2 or 3 specific events, whereas for your club season, if you were in high school, those guys are training you for 3-day meets, 6, 7, 8 different events at a time. So college is very specialized, and because of that specialized training, some of the kids prefer more of the collegiate practices that we'll write to them.
Now, you guys, one of the things that we announced earlier this week is some additions to your men's and women's roster for the upcoming season. We had already announced a good number of them earlier in the semester. So big incoming class for you guys. I know Ryan and Maddie have helped publicize some of those new swimmers coming in. How many of those were kids that you've had to recruit under and kind of, I guess, get to sign under this new normal? Or were a lot of those kids ones that you already had on the hook and it was just a matter of them finishing up the type of paperwork?
Yeah, I think luckily, we made it, or I made it when I came in this season, a very, very big goal of ours to get our incoming class going as soon as possible. And I would say more than were already signed and ready to go than we got, but I would say probably 5 of them, we have here now, you said 6, I think, were announced, added to that class from when we announced it initially in January. But some of them under this new norm had to be signed, and it was a tough decision for them. They haven't had an opportunity to come to the campus and meet me and, Maddie and Ryan in person, and even the team in some cases. So we had to do the virtual stuff. And, that was, in some cases having kid meet with, the boys team or the women's team a little bit through Zoom, and stuff of that nature, where we had virtual tours of campus, stuff that we're all kind of getting used to and hoping that that's not the way we really like doing our official visits, where the kid gets to come in and feel comfortable with the team and get a real look at what he or she is going to be signing up for and doing. So it was definitely an adjustment. And I would say, we did have a few people that had to make a decision without really being able to come to campus in person.
And then I guess from the technology standpoint, you guys, Maddie and Ryan, you guys have kind of dealt with those kids a little bit you're helping, I guess, maybe facilitate some of these recruiting visits. And have there been things that you guys have kind of had to learn and become very quickly experts in order to kind of make these things happen from the recruiting side?
Go ahead, Ryan.
Go ahead.
I mean, Maddie's kind of more of the recruitment side for this past year, but yeah, we've got a real good incoming freshman class coming in, and it was very important for me to come in here. This is my second year, so it was very important for me to come in and kind of get the hold on what campus life was like, especially being a young coach like I am. Like I feel like I'm in a pretty good position to know what's important for kids that are trying to choose a college, like the right class size, what community life is like on campus, what's the swim program like, how do the team members interact, like all these certain things that can pile up to a college decision that maybe sometimes you don't necessarily think of. So it's definitely a lot of new information being thrown at you, but once you get the hang of it, recruiting is a pretty fun side of this sport and aspect. And I don't know if Maddie, you want to share some of the things that you've had in your first year on that.
Yeah, so I know like in the beginning of like the season when we had a bunch of people like coming on campus, I could like type up an itinerary real quick and like email all the professors and have like the day like scheduled out. And then when we went to like online, I had to like communicate with like professors, and most of them like check their email, but there was like a couple that were like, yeah, we haven't Zoom yet, so we can't really like do a Zoom meeting. And I was like, oh geez, I was like, okay. So I kind of had to like figure out another way for like our kid to like communicate with the professor to like learn about like the program and like kind of help them decide. So that was definitely like a learning curve where it was like, okay, well, we know how to use Zoom, but like not all the like department like knew how to do it and everything. So I was like, okay, so I had to like adjust for that. But the rest of it was kind of like normal. It was just different, but we made it work.
Now you talk about technology and people having to learn. What has been, I guess, maybe the one thing in this new normal, a skill set, technology, anything like that, that each of you guys has had to kind of learn or has set out to try to learn to make yourself better in that area during this new, I guess, like I said, we're about 8 weeks of doing this from home now.
I think it's really just been getting used to and comfortable with the Zoom calls. We're doing that to meet as the staff. Obviously, we've used it to meet as a department, and even meet with our team. That's the extent of the face-to-face time that we get with each other, and I think that's obviously been a major adjustment for everyone. We're always in with each other, and that's what we like to do. We like to converse and joke with each other and see one another and work hard with each other, and we just haven't been able to do that. So it's definitely been an adjustment using the Zoom stuff from a technological standpoint, just to communicate with one another. I'd say other than that, we really have always used GroupMe and that different stuff to communicate with one another. Obviously, always calling recruits by phone. So not too much of that has changed other than not having them on campus. So we've obviously had to take advantage of Zoom and Skype and stuff like that a little bit more. But I'm not sure, maybe you guys, Ryan, may have something to add there as technology is concerned.
I've just had to learn how to become productive in my own apartment. There's a lot of days during the swim season and off season that I'll wake up, I'll go into the office. I'm a graduate student too, so I have to take classes, and sometimes I have to do homework in the office and do everything else on that front. And a lot of days during the week, I'll not show up at my apartment until 9 p.m. at night. And so really, anytime I'm in the apartment before this, it's my relaxed time. It's just a little bit of me time. And not being in the office, I've had to get up off my couch where I usually go ahead and relax. I sit up on the coffee table and just get work done, something just to be productive that I've had to learn through this.
Yeah, and then I've been like the same way. I'm like not a big fan of online classes. I've learned I'm just like they do not work very well. I've definitely like in person a lot more. And then as far as like the swim side of things, I've gotten really good at making collages, like our like freshman spotlight things. I've like learned like different websites that work well and like are more user friendly. Some of them are not very user friendly and like really difficult, but I've definitely like gotten better like on that like technology side of like, oh, like I can make this cool design and like it'll look really nice. So that's been like pretty fun and like cool to learn.
Now you talk about fun, and we'll kind of change topics or modes here a little bit. Is my question when we started doing this for a lot of the coaches was, what is the thing you miss most? And I don't know that you've been in your house for 8 weeks. You may not remember what you miss most anymore, but with the summer right around the corner and the weather changing, what if things are allowed to open up again, are you maybe most looking forward to doing this summer?
Yeah, I know for me, it's going to be, getting back into a routine where I'm seeing my coworkers and getting back in the office and getting to work and doing some of that. But of course, also having the ability to travel and see, family and friends more in a social and safe setting, being able to do that a little bit more. And obviously, I think we've all gotten used to, as much as we can being apart, but we obviously all miss each other. So really spending some time with those people and, going to dinner and doing stuff like that we have obviously taken for granted maybe in the past, and really having an opportunity to get back to some of that.
For me, I'm most looking forward to getting the team camaraderie back together. The best part about my job is just being on the pool deck with those kids. And I mean, I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm used to, over the summer, people are on a pool deck. People are just splashing around, having a good time in the water. And obviously that's something that isn't going to happen here for a while. But kind of piggybacking off of Evan, it's so important for us to try and get back into a routine, whether that's just as simple as waking up at a certain particular time of day and getting your work done like from there, and just getting back into a way of doing things, especially when things are closed up, is extremely important right now.
Yeah, and then for me, I miss seeing the team like every day, like interacting with them, and like personally, I miss like my gym people. I like work out at the one gym like on 18th Street, and like we've been doing Zoom workouts. So like I've been working out in my living room for the past like 8 weeks, getting tired of like being just in my living room. So like I'm ready to get back like into the gym like with all of them like together and everything. So.
Now you have been stuck in the house for 6, 7, 8 weeks now. What has been the thing that you have tried to make sure that you don't overindulge on from like a food standpoint? Is there a guilty pleasure food that you have to try to make sure you don't overdo it on?
I don't know. What about you guys? I'd say for me, I've just been eating everything. So that's been the problem for me. I haven't been able to say no. I'm not seeing anybody, so I might as well just eat and try to be as happy as possible. I'm not sure if you guys have a specific food you're trying to avoid, but that's how I've been having to approach it.
I'm an absolute sucker for popcorn. That's my guilty snack pleasure. I went to school at St. Louis University, and so there were many weekends where we would go up to Chicago and we'd go get some Garrett's popcorn. And so that kind of just translated to just snacking on it all the time. Yeah, it's definitely not good right now, but sometimes you just can't help it.
Yeah, I'd say mine has been like desserts. Like I've made like probably 3 batches of Rice Krispie treats, and they last like 2 days. And I just like I eat the whole, like I make them and then I'm like, oh, they're gone, like, and everything. And then like brownies too. Anytime like I buy a box of brownies and just like eat the whole thing. I'm like, oh, so good.
Now, when you guys are going to have those foods, a lot of times you're going to be sitting on your couch snacking or eating on those types of things. What's been your go-to, I guess, guilty pleasure or show that you've kind of watched yourself watch either on Netflix or Amazon or Disney or any of those streaming services that you guys have kind of either never watched before or went back to rewatch?
I know for me, I'll start off here. I watched Ozark, and I recently just watched Waco, which was actually really, really good, pretty riveting. And then obviously I've been watching The Last Dance, which is, with a sports background. I know all of us, us 3 coaches, have a great interest in all the sports and competitiveness. That's been really cool to watch as well.
I am most likely in the running for world's worst binge watcher. I'm not great at binge watching TV shows. I just have a very short attention span to them. I'll get started on one and then go right to the other without finishing it. So there's so many TV shows that I haven't watched or finished because of that. I think off the top of my head, I've only finished maybe 4 TV shows that I can think of off the top of my head. I'm more of a movie person. So I just finished, actually for the first time ever, watching all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies for the first time. My favorite movie of all time is the Kristen Nolan trilogy for Batman. That's some of my favorite films. And I actually recently just got done watching the chapters 1, 2, and 3 of John Wick too. So
I know for me in the beginning, I'd watched the entire season of That 70s Show. I just binged the entire series. And then because my sister is like super into that and I hadn't watched it yet, so I was like, oh, I'll watch that. And then Frozen 2 came out on Disney Plus, and I watched that like 3 times, and I was like, oh, this is so good. And then currently I've been watching The Office. I've never watched it before, so I was like, oh, now's a good time. So I've been working my way through that.
Great show.
Now, Evan talked about the fact that you guys are all sports fans and there is no live sports right now. But if, let's say, live sports came back, but you could only watch on TV, what's the sport or the team that you would most like to watch a game on TV from home to which I guess who's your team and which sport?
Well, I know these two are big baseball fanatics for sure. So I think I know what they're going to say. For me, they know I'm a diehard Patriots fan. You know, we're not at that point yet with football stuff. So, you know, I would probably say I miss seeing the Celtics right now. We're probably getting into playoff time and seeing how they're doing with one another, building their relationships and getting a better team throughout this season, trying to make a run at the thing. But, you know, Red Sox and Celtics, I think, is what I would say right now.
Exactly what Evan alluded to. My first love was baseball. I grew up in a baseball family. My mom's a Cubs fan. My dad's a Dodger fan. I am all for the home team. So I'm all Arizona teams, the Coyotes, the Suns, the Cardinals, and the Diamondbacks. But baseball has always been my first love. If it was a normal year right now, you could see me just watching all the baseball that I could.
Yeah, that's how I'd be too. I was like talking to my mom and I was like, usually like I would sit and like turn on a game and like do some homework. And I'm like, I'm missing like all the games. Like I'm a huge like Philadelphia Phillies fan. And the other day I just like Googled a game like on YouTube and like turned it on. I was like, oh yes. Like, cause I was like, I need a baseball game just to be on. I don't care what it is, but like, I just need to turn one on.
Now for you to, if you guys are missing baseball that much, now I've seen it advertised. I'm not watching it. I guess the Korean Baseball League is live right now but you have to get up super early in the morning, I think, to watch them live.
Yeah, I have seen that. That does not sound appealing to me. Even though I'm a night owl, I'm not going to watch it at 4:30 in the morning. It's not enticing.
All right. Well, my last question for you guys, and we've put this out to every group, and Evan, I'll let you designate what order your coaches go in here. This is kind of head coach's priority on this one is what, I guess, artist or song has kind of been the song, maybe theme song that's kind of gone through your head during this quarantine. And I've had a lot of different answers from all over the musical spectrum as we've done these for the last couple weeks.
All right. Yeah. I guess either one of you, if you guys have an answer, it might be a tough one to answer quickly, but you know, Ryan, you can go.
Thanks for putting me on the spot. No, something that I think about with this quarantine is Three Little Birds by Bob Marley. I forget the first instance where I heard that song, but it's such a good message to just wake up every single morning and have a purpose with the day. And especially now with everything kind of locked up, trying to get into a routine is probably one of the more important things you can do through this. A, just to keep yourself sane, but B, also to realize that life does go on and we're going to get through this.
Yeah, I don't know. I always think of like John Bon Jovi and go like Living on a Prayer, and it's like, okay, like we're halfway there basically, but our halfway there keeps shifting because the time just keeps going. But that's always like a good song where it's just like you can just sit and like jam out to that one.
Yeah, for me, I think it's more the same as what they're saying. It's feel good music, you know, as we get into warmer weather, trying to play some of that, you know, oldies, you know, good feel music like, you know, Allman Brothers, Zeppelin, Eagles, just all that good stuff that makes you happy and reminds you of the good times, and you know, everything's going to be all right.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys' time, and hopefully, like you said, you'll be able to get back on the pool deck here in the near future and be able to get back to some sort of normal with your kids, and hopefully they'll be able to get back into the water a little bit this summer. I do appreciate you guys joining us here for our weekly Friday conversation.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you guys. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, you too.